I work like a dog day and night. Every ounce of my energy goes into keeping my kids' future safe. I pay their school fees, their extra classes, even the little things that help them feel normal. Some days I skip meals. Some days I don't drink water for hours just to keep pushing through shifts. I do it because I want my kids to have a better life than I ever did. But here's the twist: one night, after years of holding it all in, I finally spoke up. And that was the night my husband kicked me out. Reddit, I really need to know Aita for saying what I felt. I'm 32, a mother, and someone who has lived on sacrifice for as long as I can remember. My mornings start before the sun comes up. I drag myself out of bed quietly because if I make too much noise, my mother-in-law complains that I disturb her sleep. I get the kids' bags ready, toast whatever bread we have left, and water down the milk so it stretches a little longer. Then I run for the 6:15 bus, shoulder to shoulder with strangers, already exhausted before the workday even begins. At work, I push myself beyond my limit, lifting, carrying, typing, running, anything they demand. Breaks don't exist for me. If I save $10 by skipping lunch, it means my kids get shoes that actually fit their feet. People sometimes ask, how do you do it? The truth is, I don't know. I just keep going because if I stop, everything falls apart. That night, it was pouring rain. The streets were flooded, buses delayed, and by the time I got home, I was soaked to the bone. My bag was heavy. My body felt like it was made of stone, but I still told myself, just get inside. Just make dinner. Just keep everyone happy. But the moment I opened the door, the air was thick with tension. My husband, my kids, and my in-laws sat in the living room. No one spoke, but their eyes burned into me. You're late. You failed again. I went straight to the kitchen, forcing myself to keep moving. Maybe if I cooked fast, no one would complain. But when I opened the fridge, my heart sank. All the easy food was gone. No leftovers, no snacks, nothing. My stomach twisted with hunger, but more than that, with dread. I thought maybe, just for tonight, I could ask for a small break. I turned and said quietly, why don't we order something online? Just this once, that's when my mother-in-law snapped. Her voice was sharp and cold. What do you even do in this house? I froze. Those words hit harder than the rain. Outside, my mind went blank, then filled with everything I had swallowed for years. The exhaustion, the sacrifice, the endless hours no one noticed. Before I could stop myself, the words slipped out. I work like a dog all day and night, and now it's late at night. What more do you expect from me? Silence. My kids dropped their eyes, ashamed. My mother-in-law looked like I had cursed her. My husband's jaw tightened, and I knew something had broken. Within minutes, my husband told me to leave. At first, I thought he didn't mean it. I thought maybe if I apologized, maybe if I begged, it would blow over. But no, he stood his ground, his voice steady and cruel. That night, in the pouring rain, I packed whatever I could into bags. My kids clung to me, crying, as we stepped out into the dark. My in-laws said nothing. My husband didn't look back. It's been 5 days since then. Now, I live in a small rented apartment with peeling walls and a fridge that hums too loud. The heater barely works, the mattress is thin, but at least here, the silence doesn't hurt me. At least here, no one asks me why I'm late, no one mocks me for not doing enough. But lying awake at night, I wonder, did I destroy everything with one sentence? Was I wrong to finally say what I felt? Or was I just a human being who broke after years of carrying it all? So Reddit, I need to hear it from you. Aita for speaking up, or was I right to finally stand up for myself? Because right now, I don't feel strong. I don't feel brave. I just feel broken. The first night in this tiny apartment didn't feel real. The walls are thin, the heater rattles, and the single mattress we share sinks in the middle. My kids clung to me like baby birds, their little hands gripping my shirt as if they were afraid I'd disappear in the night. I lay there, wide awake, staring at the cracked ceiling and thinking, how did it come to this? Just days ago, I had a husband, a house, a family, even if it was toxic. Now, all I have are 2 kids, 3 bags of clothes, and a silence that's both peaceful and terrifying. Morning came too fast. My alarm buzzed at 5 a.m., just like always. I wanted to stay curled up just for a little while longer, but I couldn't. My kids needed breakfast, lunches, and some sense of normal. The kitchen barely had anything, just instant noodles and a half-empty jar of peanut butter. I boiled water, made noodles, and packed them in mismatched containers. My daughter asked quietly, "Mom, when can we go back home?" My chest tightened, but I forced a smile. "Sweetheart, this is home now, and we're going to make it the best home ever." Inside, I was breaking. Work hasn't gotten easier. On the outside, I'm the same woman who shows up early, takes on extra shifts, and never complains. But no one knows that in my lunch break, I sometimes hide in the restroom, sitting on the toilet with my head in my hands, crying silently so no one hears. My body feels heavier than ever, and yet I have to keep moving, because if I stop, my whole world stops with me. Rent won't wait. School fees won't wait. Life doesn't care if your heart is shattered. At night, when the kids are asleep, that's when the loneliness creeps in. In my in-laws' house, even if it was suffocating, there were voices, arguments, noise. Here, it's just the hum of the fridge and the sound of my own thoughts. Sometimes I replay that night in my head, my mother-in-law's cold words, my husband's face as he told me to leave. I wonder if maybe I should have swallowed my pride, stayed silent one more time, and kept my kids in their warm beds. But then I ask myself, what lesson would that have taught them? That they're mothers. Worth is nothing. That it's okay to let people walk all over you. No, I couldn't. Still, the doubt eats at me. I haven't heard from my husband since that night. My in-laws act like I never existed. A part of me aches for one phone call, even if it's filled with anger. Another part of me is terrified they'll try to take my kids. And yet, in the middle of all this pain, there are moments of light. Yesterday, I came home from a brutal shift, ready to collapse. But when I opened the door, I saw my kids sitting on the floor, drawing with the few crayons we managed to bring. My son looked up at me, his eyes bright, and said, "Mom, one day, I'll buy you a big house so you never have to cry." I dropped everything and hugged him so tight, sobbing into his little shoulder. That moment reminded me, maybe this isn't the end. Maybe it's the beginning of something better. Reddit, I'm still asking myself the same question. Was I wrong? Did I go too far? Or was this life change meant to happen the moment I finally spoke the truth? Some nights I feel like a failure. Other nights I feel like a fighter. But right now, I just feel lost. It had been almost 2 weeks since I left my husband's house. 2 weeks of silence from his side. At first, I thought maybe he'd call in anger, or maybe just to ask about the kids. But no, nothing. That silence hurt more than words ever could. It was like I had been erased, like I was never part of their family at all. Then one evening, just as the kids and I were finishing a simple dinner of rice and lentils, there was a knock at the door. My heart jumped. No one ever visits us here. I wiped my hands and opened it, and there he was. My husband, standing in the dim hallway with his arms crossed. His mother just behind him, glaring like she was ready for war. My kids froze at the table, forks in midair. My son whispered, "Dad," but he didn't even look at them. His eyes were on me, cold, unforgiving. He stepped inside without asking, his mother close behind. The small apartment suddenly felt too tight, too suffocating. He wasted no time. "This can't go on," he said flatly. "You made your choice when you disrespected my mother. You walked out. But the children, they don't belong in this dump." Those words sliced through me. I felt my knees weaken. My kids don't belong here. Maybe the walls are cracked and the mattress is thin, but this place is filled with my sacrifice, my love, my blood and sweat. How dare he? I clenched my fists, forcing myself not to break down. "They're not leaving me," I said quietly, my voice trembling but steady. His mother scoffed. "Do you think you can raise them alone? You couldn't even cook dinner that night without asking for takeout. What will people say? What kind of example are you setting?" My daughter's eyes filled with tears as she pushed her plate away. I wanted to shield her from every word, from every ounce of poison spilling out in this room. I knelt down beside her and held her hand tight. Then I looked up at them. I may not have money, I may not have a perfect home, but at least here, my kids won't see me insulted every day. At least here, they'll learn what it means to fight for yourself. For a moment, there was silence. My husband's jaw clenched, his fists tightening at his sides. I could see the storm building inside. Him. He wanted control. He wanted me to beg. But I didn't. I stood tall, even though inside I was shaking. Finally, he turned, muttered something under his breath, and walked out. His mother threw me one last glare before following him. The door slammed shut, leaving us in the same silence we started with. But this time, my kids ran into my arms. They didn't need words. Their hugs told me everything. "We're with you, Mom. We're not leaving you." That night, after they fell asleep, I sat in the dark, staring at the locked door. My hands were still trembling. The fear of losing them, of fighting a battle I wasn't ready for, weighed heavy on me. But I also felt something else, a small spark of strength. Maybe they'd come back. Maybe they'd try again. Maybe the road ahead was going to be even harder. But one thing I knew for sure, I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not ever, Reddit. Tell me honestly, was I wrong to fight back? To say no when they tried to take my kids? Or am I finally doing the right thing, even if it costs me everything? The days after I left blurred together, yet every single one carried its own weight, its own quiet battle. Morning came not with peace, but with a heavy chest and the kind of silence that pressed into my bones. The silence of an apartment too small for our dreams, yet too sacred for despair. I woke up each day, still half expecting to hear the footsteps of in-laws in the hallway or the sharp voice of someone ready to remind me of all the ways I had supposedly failed. Instead, I only heard the soft breathing of my children curled up against me on a mattress we had dragged onto the floor. That silence was heavy, yes, but it was also ours. One morning, while I was putting on my shoes for work, my daughter slipped a folded piece of paper into my hand. She didn't say a word, only smiled shyly before rushing off to pack her school bag. I opened it later on the bus, and inside, in uneven handwriting, were the words, "Don't cry, Mom, we're proud of you." My breath caught, my throat tightened. Until I could barely breathe, I pressed the paper to my chest, and before I even knew it, tears were rolling down my cheeks. The world outside the bus windows blurred, but in that moment I didn't care. To her, I wasn't broken. I wasn't the woman who had been kicked out or humiliated. I was her mother, her strength, her safe place. And that little scrap of paper became my anchor dot at work. Exhaustion clung to me like a second skin. My eyes burned, my body ached, and yet I pushed through shift after shift. I thought no one noticed until one of my coworkers gently touched my arm and said, "You can't do this alone. There are groups, legal help, people who will stand by you if you let them." For a moment, I just stared at her. I wanted to laugh, to say I didn't have the time or the luxury to ask for help. But that night, when the kids were asleep and the apartment sank into stillness, her words came back to me. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the walls that barely held us together, and asked myself, if I burn out, who will fight for my children? Who will be left to love them the way I do? So I took a step I had avoided for years. I reached out, a phone call here, an email there. And for the first time in so long, I let strangers become a wise. Women's groups welcomed me. Legal aid explained my rights. They reminded me of something I had forgotten in that toxic house. I wasn't alone. I wasn't weak. I wasn't wrong for speaking up. Their words didn't erase my pain, but they placed a candle in the darkness. For the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. Then the call came. His voice was cold, sharp, dripping with threat. Come back, he said, or you'll regret it. My hand trembled around the phone, but my heart no longer cowered. I closed my eyes, pictured my daughter's note, my son's laughter in this tiny apartment, and the steady voices of those who told me I was worth fighting for. I steadied my breath and answered, do what you have to. I'm not afraid anymore. And then I hung up. It wasn't victory. It wasn't the end of struggle, but it was the first time in years that my voice didn't shake. Life now is not perfect. Rent swallows half my paycheck before I can blink. Grocery bags feel lighter than they used to. Some nights I cry quietly into my pillows so the kids don't hear. Yet despite all of that, peace has found its way into our lives. A fragile peace, but a peace nonetheless. We eat dinner together at our small wooden table. Sometimes just rice and beans, sometimes leftovers from work. But it doesn't matter, because around that table, there's laughter. There are silly jokes, stories from school, the sound of my children being children. For years, meals had been filled with criticism, with tension, with silence. Now, every bite feels like freedom. I see it in my children's eyes, too. They don't look at me as if I'm failing. They don't pity me. They look at me with pride, as if I am someone who chose them, someone who refused to let cruelty define their lives. And maybe, for the first time, I'm starting to see myself that way too. So Reddit, I ask you one last time, am I the asshole? Was I wrong to speak up, even if it meant losing the life I once knew? Or was this the first step toward building something new, something stronger, where my children grow up learning their mother's worth? All I know is this: I may still feel broken, but within that brokenness lives a freedom I've never known. And maybe, just maybe, this is where healing begins. And here's the part I can't stop replaying in my head. If I had stayed quiet that night, I'd still be living under their roof, exhausted, unappreciated, and invisible. Instead, I spoke. Up once, and it cost me my home, my marriage, and the life I thought was secure. So Reddit, tell me honestly, am I the asshole for finally breaking the silence? Or was this the only way my kids could ever learn that their mother's worth is greater than anyone's anger? Be real with me. Would you have stayed, swallowed it all, and kept the family together? Or would you have walked away like I did? Drop your verdict. YTANTAESHNAAH. And if you've lived through something like this, share your story. Maybe your words are the one thing someone else needs to find their own voice tonight.